Hello and welcome to this new episode of Open Book Entrepreneur. Today we have Penny Hopkins here with us. She's the operation manual specialist, author of Manual Magic, and just amazing entrepreneur as well, and helping entrepreneurs mastery. So, Penny, please introduce yourself to our audience.
Hello, everyone. I'm delighted to be here. Yes, I'm Penny Hopkinson from the UK, and I'm an operations manual specialist, which sounds very scary, but actually, it's not quite as dull and daunting as it seems because I reimagine the dull text-heavy operations manual as a dynamic, engaging knowledge sharing environment in which everybody can participate, learn, and grow.
Wonderful. So yeah, I mean, we had a chance to chat before as well, and I'm really intrigued, to find out more about what you're doing, and also to share it with the audience, and especially about the standard operating procedures that you are really mastered. I know you worked with some amazing companies like Costa Coffee, and you will actually be able to probably share some others as well with us. So yeah, tell us what actually inspired you to get into this business of helping other businesses organize their standard operating procedures.
Well, it all began when I was quality correspondent for the Institute of Purchasing and Supply. And I worked on a couple of publications and I began to understand what total quality management is in the States, fell in love with the concept, thought this is the way to go, and quality circles as well. And then I learned about the Japanese steps for making small improvements called Kaizen. So I thought, well, I wonder if I could make the procedures manuals that go with what is now ISO 9000 a little bit more interesting and exciting because I felt that there was not a lot of engagement by the people who were using these operations manuals. So back in 1987, I launched Manual Writers International, and that meant the whole concept of simplifying SOPs, standard operating procedures, was going to have a refresh. And I've been doing that for, I guess it's 34 years now.
Totally. And why do you think it's important for businesses to have standard operating procedures in place? Even like, okay, I understand when they're big companies, and then also, how about like small to medium sized businesses? Why is that important for them?
Well, let's take the solopreneur or the micro business. What happens if you get sick, like I was in 2022 when I caught COVID very badly and ended up in hospital? There was nobody to take over from me when I had long COVID. I would say that long COVID was like being in a fog. As a writer all my life, or my working life, I found it really easy to put words together, but not during long COVID, which meant I couldn't do what I really wanted to do was to write the book.
Mhm.
And if I'd had some procedures, I could at least have got a VA to do my research for me.
Yes. So
But it didn't happen.
yes, and then also on top of that, if we're talking about small businesses hiring VAs, and also hiring other staff or hiring contractors, I believe, and I also seen in our businesses that having standard operating procedures in place is really important now. How do you make it interesting for people to actually this is part of the business that for most of the people is not so interesting, or they want to avoid it, or they want to actually cut corners and stuff, but how do you make it interesting for business?
I think anybody would rather climb the highest mountain, and procrastination is the one thing that gets in the way of doing them. Well, let's take anybody under 40. Are you going to read loads of dull text heavy stuff? I think the answer is no,
No.
because we're all used to YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, and we need to meet people where they learn, and they learn from their peers. So we need to create bite-sized procedures where somebody in a team has a great idea to turn a procedure into something visual and then start creating it on a smartphone. It doesn't have to be perfect, it just has to be accurate. And you don't need to put faces because people change. And you want that to be available once it's approved, available for everyone. And they can comment and say, well, actually, we managed to shave 5 seconds off this. And if you multiply that across a network like Costa Coffee of 4,000 outlets, is going to make one big difference. So I say small improvements or tiny improvements can make a mighty difference. Get your teams involved.
Totally, yes. And so, can you tell us a little bit more about this experience of obviously working with these big international companies or big multinationals or big franchises as well? Like, what experience did you get in terms of creating standard operating procedures by working with those companies?
Well, I think the first thing is that even though you think that the biggest companies have the experience of putting together an operations manual, they often don't. They don't know where to start. They don't know how to structure. So I go in and we get the teams together. We make them understand the philosophy. It's a bit of a culture change. And we explain everything and have great lines of reporting, great lines of communication. We set up a project team with a project coordinator, and we work together as part. I'm part of the team. It's not a them and us process, and I guide them all the way to creating their operations manual so that nobody feels that they're doing something alone. One of the problems that I find a lot is people are used to creating reports, but this is very different. They're very hesitant, and I need to give people confidence in their abilities because actually you can do it. And with Manual Magic AI being launched shortly, all they need to do is to upload their intellectual property. It'll be sorted into my categories, easy categories that everybody can understand, that mirror largely the balanced scorecard. And then with AI assistance, they can create world-class SOPs with their brand voice, tone, all the key phrases. So it's a done by you, but done with you process.
Totally. And tell us a little bit more about this exciting thing you're working on at the moment.
Well, Manual Magic Create the Operations Manual Your Franchisees Need to Succeed was a book that I published in late 2023. And at the beginning of this year, I started experimenting and I built a little platform to test the idea of an AI version. So it's software as a service, a SaaS product. And we put it through its paces. We had somebody who was not actually a client, but who had 3 problems. And we solved those problems using the platform and created standard operating procedures in the brand, tone, and voice so that they came out with everything that was necessary to complete the process.
Wow. And how long did took them to do or complete?
Well, I fed the three problems into my program for a gap analysis, and it took 15 minutes.
That's quick. Yeah, absolutely.
Very quick.
Because I know even from what we were talking about before, it took some companies like years to do these standard operating procedures before.
Well, Costa Coffee, with I think we did 5 volumes and we did one update, was 3 to 4 years. And then the AA was 9 months, and the AA driving school, which also took in the British School of Motoring, BSM, that was about 9 or 10 months. We had a deadline, but we had teams. We had departmental heads. We met every month. We updated the project schedule week on week, charting the deliverables, what stage in the drafting process it was, and when it was signed off to be approved. Now we can do all that in Manual Magic AI, which we launched the waitlist in September. So that's not long. We roll out the beta so that everybody has a chance to put it through its paces and see what kind of tweaks they would like to make to it, how to personalize it for themselves to make it the best it can possibly be.
Oh, so yeah, I mean, this sounds like a huge shortcut, and where people actually can find out more about the waitlist and about this system.
I would really love to connect on LinkedIn, mentioning you and as my host, and Manual Magic AI, and just ask to be included as soon as the waitlist goes live. If we've connected, you will be the first to know.
Wonderful. Okay, and then on top of that, like, what's one piece of advice that you can actually give to someone who is thinking about maybe creating standard operating procedures, but they're not really, they haven't done it yet, or they're sort of taking a long time to prepare, or they have some other things that they're focused on. But what would you what would be one piece of advice you could give them?
I think we might even go back to Aristotle, where he said, basically paraphrasing him, what gets repeated gets done. So consistency is the key. Once you start creating your SOPs, you start to build a consistent system that can be replicated by anybody faithfully. If you make it a video, and we create storyboards from the SOPs and Manual Magic AI, then you have that single source of truth, which means everybody can follow the same thing in the same way that you have used to be successful. And that's the way to scale your business.
Wonderful, wonderful, excellent. Yeah, and just to repeat again, if someone wants to actually connect to you, I think the best way is via LinkedIn, and just finding your name, Penny Hopkins. And then on top of that, yeah, I can share in the description of this episode, I can share the link to your LinkedIn as well. And thank you so much for being a guest and sharing your wisdom, sharing these great tips, and also sharing on what you're working on and how is it helping businesses. Thank you all for watching and listening to this episode. If you like it, drop us a like. If you have some questions about SOPs for Penny, write it down in the comments. And then on top of that, see you all in the next episode. All the best and bye-bye.